Bonjour! Today we will do some reading out loud, and I have selected a passage from Dans les pas d'Augustine, written by Anna Diep and Gwen Van Key. It's a nice story taking place in Guadeloupe and French Guiana, and if you are interested in purchasing the book, then please contact me. Vous êtes prêts? C'est parti! I have divided this passage into two parts. Here's the first part, and if you are preparing for CSEC, you will have a 10-minute preparation. 10 minutes sounds long, but it can go fast, especially if you encounter difficulties in the passage. So my advice to you is, first, read it carefully and quickly. Second, spot the difficulties. And third, spot the liaisons. And that's what we're going to do. I have underlined some words which may be difficult for you. Lieu, the first one is lieu. Then we have this long word complètement, complètement. J'étais complètement. Then the word for mental, very important because very often students say mental. Okay, so it's mental, mental, le calcul mental. Then enseignante, and I have to pronounce the T because there's an E after the T. Enseignante, de devenir enseignante. Then we have dévouement. So there's an E in the middle of the word, but because there's no accent, it's silent. So it gives us dévouement. And the last one, couche. Couche. Here I have used three colors. So first of all, you can see the red color. I use red to show you the imperfect tense. Why the imperfect tense? Because I have noticed that students don't know how to pronounce the endings of the imperfect tense. So for example, you have était, s'occupait, j'étais, me passionnait, j'envisageais, affichait, and it's always e, the sound e. Then another color you can see is purple. This is for the S. So for example, you have prise. As you can see, there's one S between two vowels. So we're going to have the pronunciation Z. Prise, j'envisageais. Whereas with the two S's, we're going to have ce sound, which we see in passionné, maîtresse. And the last color is a kind of brown color, which I put at the end of education, because very often students use the Asian type of pronunciation. And this is very English. You have to remember that is action, éducation, la même éducation. Now the liaisons. So the first one is était un, prise en charge, aux enfants, de mon âge, les enfants. Now this is my reading. L'école était un lieu où on s'occupait de moi. J'étais complètement prise en charge. La lecture, l'écriture, le calcul et surtout le calcul mental, tout me passionnait. J'envisageais plus tard de devenir enseignante pour transmettre la même éducation aux enfants de mon âge. Cependant, malgré tout son dévouement, la maîtresse affichait une préférence pour les enfants de couches sociales différentes de la mienne. Now, part 2. So here, we're going to do the same thing. First of all, I have underlined the words which I think that maybe will be a bit challenging. I know for sure chaussure is not chaussure as I often hear, but chaussure is a se sound. Aisance, aisance. And this long word intellectuellement, intellectuellement, intellectuellement. Malheureux, malheureux. Then I put in red again the endings of the imperfect, j'étais, j'avais, avait, etc. And then in brown I highlighted the IN sound because very often I hear in instead of un. So intégrer, investir. Another thing which I didn't say earlier, which I should have actually, which is as important, is the punctuation. Punctuation is very important. You need to ensure that you pause after a comma, and then your voice needs to go down just before the stop, full stop. Okay? So, for example, in the first sentence, you have pourtant. I'm not going to say pourtant j'étais. You have to say pourtant, pause, j'étais. And then for the last word, for example, here, the last word of this text, we'll have to say au même traitement and not même traitement. No, the voice doesn't raise, it goes down. So now we are ready for the reading. If you are not sure when to make a liaison in French, I would advise you to watch those 3 videos which I made a while ago. Liaisons in French, the compulsory ones, liaison in French, the forbidden ones, and the last one, when do we make a liaison with an H in French? So I think you will get the answers to your questions if you're not sure. Now, let's move to the reading. Pourtant, j'étais intégrée dans ce groupe puisque j'avais la chance de porter des chaussures et d'être mieux habillée de tous les autres camarades de classe qui étaient pieds nus. J'avais beaucoup de chance de connaître cette aisance et ce bien-être. C'est la raison pour laquelle j'étais déterminée à m'investir intellectuellement pour réaliser mes rêves. Ces enfants, aussi malheureux que moi, n'avaient pas droit au même traitement. Here's a recap of my tips. If you have a text to read out loud for an exam, then you will be given some preparation time, I'm sure. This is what I advise you to do during that time. First of all, read quickly the text once. The reason for doing it is 1, to have an idea of what the text is about, and 2, to have an idea of the level of difficulty. Because you will have to read the text several times, and that will give you the opportunity to spot the difficult words which you think you will be struggling in terms of pronunciation. Then you will need to spot the liaisons. Remember, they are the compulsory liaisons, the forbidden ones, and the optional ones. Okay? So make sure that you know at least the compulsory ones and the forbidden ones. Then you need to spot the commas and the full stops and also the places where you need to pause, because sometimes the sentence is very long and you may need to have a little pause. So just try to see in your mind where you would put a pause. Then remember, the voice goes down before a full stop. Very often students make that mistake. So I remind you that the voice goes down before a full stop. Now, another thing I would like to say is that you are not to rush the reading to give an idea of fluency. That is not going to work. It's better to read properly, a little bit more slowly, than rushing and the examiner cannot understand what you're reading. A good reading is really when the examiner doesn't need to read the text. The examiner can understand what you're saying without having to read the text you are reading. All right? Thanks for watching et au revoir!